And happy new year to everyone out there. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, on what for us college football fans is basically Christmas about a week later. Our Christmas is New Year's Day. Maybe not as much as it has been in years gone by when we were growing up, when all the huge games were on New Year's Day, but still definitely a time to dig into football and watch some of the best teams in the country go at it. We are at halftime of the Sugar Bowl with Georgia trailing Texas 20-7. Of course, Georgia runner-up in the SEC, Texas runner-up in the Big 12, losing to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, and Georgia falling to Alabama after leading most of the game. The talk surrounding this game was, of course, whether the Bulldogs would be motivated in their game here against Texas in New Orleans after not making it to the college football playoff. First, by not defeating Alabama to win the SEC to earn what is basically an automatic spot. And then secondly, by not being selected by the committee based on their performance against Alabama and their status in the SEC, despite losing two games where many people supportive of the Georgia cause, the players and the fan base believe that they are one of the top four teams in the country. But the non-conference champion with two losses certainly was not going to make the playoff. And here they are losing to Texas 20-7 at halftime. All right, I will be taking calls. The number here is 860-325-3687. And I will be running through what I picked up, starting with the Outback Bowl with Iowa disposing of Mississippi State in a very entertaining game, 27-22. And so I watched as much football as I could get a hold of today, starting with that game between the SEC and the Big Ten. There was, of course, another game between the two leagues about an hour later, Penn State and Kentucky, with the Wildcats pulling off a mild upset against Penn State 27-24. I do have a call coming in. Let's get to it. Phone lines are open at 860-325-3687. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Warren? It's DeAndre.
Hey, DeAndre, how are you?
Good, good. You enjoyed all the bowls?
I enjoyed them pretty well. Yeah, we basically had all close games. The Ohio State game really wasn't close for most of the way, but it got interesting. Yeah, every game was close.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I was looking at what was I looking at? I fell asleep because I worked last night, but I looked at LSU and Central Florida. At first, I thought Central Florida was going to walk away with it, but especially at that quarterback, tough. He got back up. He got nailed by number 91. I was like, oh my God! I was like, I hope he's okay, Joe Burrow. I'm glad that he got back up and finished the game. But it was a pretty good game, though. I thought Central Florida, maybe their quarterback wasn't hurt. They've been able to take advantage of the situation with LSU losing with three of their top four cornerbacks after the one guy got thrown out for throwing the punch. I was like, wow, they might be in some trouble here, but they pulled it out, though.
Yeah, at one point late in the game, they were talking about LSU only having 5 defensive backs, 3 safeties, and 2 cornerbacks on the roster, and most of those guys hadn't played much. And they had they had a situation where Gabriel Davis, one of UCF's best players, should have caught a 75-yard touchdown pass. The ball was perfectly placed right in his hands. They were down a couple scores. This was about halfway through the fourth quarter, and he had just burned the guy. And they made note on the game broadcast that the LSU safety had barely played. He shouldn't have been out playing in an island at cornerback, but that's pretty much what they had. So I thought it was a really impressive performance by LSU, considering they were so depleted on defense by guys sitting out, but mostly by injuries and then the suspensions or the players being ejected from the game. And if you look at the yardage totals and watch the game, LSU was in, I don't want to say they were in control of the game because it could have spun with a couple big plays, but they definitely controlled the line of scrimmage. They were just dominant on the offensive and defensive lines.
Right. Well, I wouldn't went back and I saw your video on Kelly and what he said, and I could see his viewpoint. And outside the death of Clemson, I mean, I think Notre Dame was in the game. That that kick return, I don't know how they overturned that one. Like, you couldn't really tell, but you know, as people on both sides went down the list of stuff of you know, showing close-ups, you know, Notre Dame fans were like, it's inconclusive. Of course, as Clemson fans said, well, you see it touching the line right there. So, you know, I can understand where it came from. I think it was a reception that got fumbled out of bounds or was caught, or I don't remember the play that they're talking about, but I hear Notre Dame fans griping about that. But I don't think Notre Dame was a bad team. I just think that they got exposed when that corner went out, Love. And Clemson hit a couple of big guys, big plays on them. So I can understand where my boy, where Brian Kelly's coming from.
Yeah.
In there, so it's hard to you know, we can't go, no matter what we say, we'll love to go back and replay something games. You know, we all say they're going to be close. I know I teased you about the 31-0. I know Ohio State was better than that. I mean, they had, 4 players in the defensive secondary going to the pros off that defense.
Sure.
2 of them won in the first round. That year they got beat by Clemson 31-0. So, you know, they just had a bad game. I mean, and it happens. I mean, last year I think Clemson had a bad game. I don't think Alabama would have beat them 24-6. I mean, it was limitations at quarterback. I mean, Clemson's offensive line and running backs don't block, and special teams don't play better. This coming year, you might have the same result, but I don't think you will, because it's a senior-led team, and they got a better quarterback than last year. Not saying Kelly Bryant was bad, but I think they're better off this year compared to last year. So we're gonna see how that game go. But I got what Brian Kelly was trying to say. I mean, I still can't understand if Ian Brooks, whatever name is that better than Winbush. Why was Winbush the starting quarterback? I remember when Winbush first came out, everybody was like, "This is the best quarterback that Brian Kelly ever had." I'm like, "Dad, I think Kaiser went in the second round, and I was expecting this guy to be something great." And then it turned out that he wasn't that good of a passer, and now he's on the bench for a guy that wasn't even thought to be in the starter in the first 3 games of the year. I don't know if he played last year towards the end of the season, but I just don't get the quarterback situation. If Winbush was that bad, why didn't you start him off for Brooks to go into the beginning of the season? Because all I heard about Winbush is how great he was, and I'm not saying he's not. Maybe he's just not great for that particular system or the style to play. So we all know you need to throw the ball a little bit today. You just can't run the quarterback read option and hold the beat team, because people done figured it out now. You got to have somebody throw the ball down the field. That's what you see with Tua and Lawrence and a couple other guys. They're not great runners, but they can run a little bit. They keep things honest, but they can throw that ball around too. So I don't know what the quarterback situation is Notre Dame, but I know Clemson season pretty frequently in the next couple of years. But Mario, I hope you enjoy the rest of the game. I'll let somebody else get a chance to call in, and I'll be listening to the show.
All right, DeAndre, thanks so much for the call. We always appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Bye.
That's our guy, DeAndre, who heckles me on Twitter from time to time. And I say that in all kidding, because I enjoy the conversation with DeAndre, and he certainly has 1 or 2 or 3 up on me when it comes to Clemson and Ohio State, and likes to bring that up from time to time. But 31-0 is the score that he remembers, and certainly Ohio State fans will not forget for any time soon. Their last playoff appearance at this point, obviously just narrowly missing the last 2 times out. We've got another call coming in. Again, it's 860-325-3687. I've left it in the chat. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
20 Savage.
Hey, man, you got to be feeling good right now.
I bet Uncle Lou's mad.
I suppose.
Yeah. You think he is too?
I would guess that he's not feeling good about this first half.
Yeah. If we win this game, I want Bama and Clemson to play us.
Well, you know that's not going to happen.
I know.
Okay.
It'd be fun, though.
It would be fun for who? Fun for you.
Yeah. To watch it.
So
we had a better chance than Oklahoma.
So if you win this game against Georgia, you think that Texas should be able to play Alabama, the winner of Alabama-Clemson?
Yeah.
Why Texas? Why not somebody who didn't lose? Why not somebody who didn't lose 4 games?
Yeah. That's all I wanted to know.
All right, Savage. Thanks for calling, man. Enjoy the second half. Hopefully you guys can keep it up.
Okay, bye.
All right, have a good one. All right. Texas, Georgia. Longhorns played a great first half. No question about that. They also benefited from turnovers. Let's see, they came out. They had that 75-yard drive right out of the gate, 10 plays. Sam Ehlinger hitting on passes. Little Jordan Humphrey caught a 19-yarder. Keontae Ingram had a 16-yarder, and Devin Duvernay for 14. Then Ehlinger doing what he does best, running in the touchdown to make it 7-0. They got the gaff from Georgia when they went for it on 4th and short at their own 41. They lost the yardage. Texas gets it. They don't move it, but they're right in field goal range. They go up 10-0. Then DeAndre Swift, of course, had the fumble that led to the next Texas touchdown where Ehlinger, after taking a bad sack in which he should have thrown the ball out of the end zone, he could see the rush coming on a 2nd and goal, set up a 3rd and goal and ran in for the touchdown. A really nifty run in which it looked like he was bottled up in the backfield, and he took off and dodged a couple guys and rammed ahead for the touchdown to make it 17-0. And of course, Georgia then finally got it going with the running game. Really, they just smashed ahead for most of their yardage on that touchdown drive with Elijah Holyfield and DeAndre Swift, mostly Holyfield on that drive, and they took it in for the touchdown to make it 17-7. I thought it was key that Texas came right back down the field. They looked like they were rolling to score the touchdown, but they got stymied with a couple tackles for loss in the backfield, kicked the field goal to make it 20-7. And of course, Georgia got close and should have probably scored late in the first half. And actually, I was setting up, so I don't know for sure, but I don't believe they finished off that drive with any points. I think it's still 20-7, correct? Yeah, 20-7. Just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything because I didn't see pretty much the last minute. But Georgia had a couple shots close to the end zone on that one, but they couldn't apparently convert. So the Bulldogs are about a 12-point favorite in this game, and they're down by 13 at the half. And I will just be interested to see the fan reaction, your reaction, if you're a Georgia fan in particular, if Georgia does not come back to win this, to see how much of the fan base says, hey, we must not be good enough. We shouldn't have made the playoff. We lost Alabama. Then we couldn't even beat Texas. Hey, I still like where the program is. We're on a roll. We're bringing in these great recruiting classes. I like Kirby Smart. We're in a good place. But, hey, I can't complain about what happened this season. But we all know that there are going to be those Georgia fans, like any other fan base, that are going to say, you know what? We didn't try in this game. We weren't motivated. And we are really better than Texas and yada, 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 yada. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. It's Rick Reasonable Guy. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay. And I'm not going to take very long. I just want to put in my 2 cents on this game. It is painfully reminding me of Alabama versus Oklahoma 4 years ago.
Okay.
Where Alabama got matched up with what most people consider to be like an undercard, because everyone was saying they wanted Alabama and Oregon that year. But their excuse for putting Oklahoma in the match was because Oklahoma fans would have an easier time traveling to the game. And so I kind of felt like this was the same way. I thought Georgia was getting shafted with an undercard when they should have gotten Michigan. Texas has 4 losses. So, and I heard whoever the female commentator is. I also heard her say that apparently a lot of the starters were benched in the first couple days of practice because they weren't showing any effort or interest in it. And while they tried to say that as the practices went on, it got better. Yeah, I'm not really sure how much I buy that, because you're not just going to spontaneously become interested in the game just because you're not starting in practice. So I think this is definitely a case of Georgia just not feeling like they should be here.
Okay, so let's say you truly believe that, and I think there are, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks with these bowl games, there's no question there are different levels of motivation for different teams, and not even just different teams, different individuals on each team. But I think they still have to be held accountable for the loss. I will not give them a pass for the loss and say, you know what, I still know that they're better than Texas, even though I do believe that this Georgia team's better than the Texas team. But I'm not going to give them a pass for losing.
Oh no, I didn't mean to imply that I give them a pass. I never take the motivation argument seriously. If someone wants to say, well, we can let that slide. No, I don't do that. I'm just putting out my reason why I think Georgia's kind of getting manhandled in this game right now.
Sure.
I mean, if it was close or something, my tone would be different. But I think this is primarily it. I think they are very upset about being here, even though they completely did it to themselves. I mean, don't get blown out by LSU. You'd probably be in the playoffs. But yeah. But no, I don't give them a pass for this at all. This score should be reversed. I mean, it's based off what I've seen this whole season, and I think that's a valid assertion, because Texas has lost 4 games. One of them was to Oklahoma, granted, but another one was to Maryland. So, yeah, that's just kind of what I think is going on here. And also, I don't know if you remember this one, but Etlinger, I think that's his name, the Texas quarterback.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that dodge he pulled off with one of Georgia's D-backs was running at him from behind, and all of a sudden he just seemed to duck at the last possible second.
Sure.
And get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like he was a Jedi. Like he somehow just felt the guy behind him like that. That was the most entertaining part of this half.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And obviously this is a game in which even before anybody hit the field, you probably saw the, oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the bowl. And UGA, the pregame incident with Bevo.
He headbutted someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny too. I knew someone who went to Texas, and he told me that they always kept that bull stoned for every game. So he really relaxed, but apparently they must have lowered the dose for this time.
He got a little irritated. He saw a little meal in front of him.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got. This will be an interesting second half. I'm not even sure what to think. I was about to say I think Georgia will win, but honestly, based off what I've seen, all Texas has to do is basically just repeat the performance they've had. They barely even need any adjustments. I mean, they can score every other drive or a field goal most drives. I mean, Georgia will probably close the gap, but I think Texas right now has got a pretty good lead. And they supposedly actually have a respectable defense coming from the Big 12. So if they can just if they can make Georgia punt, not a lot, but on a consistent basis, then I think Texas could actually pull this upset off.
Well, I think they could too. They seem to be man enough for it, meaning the one game of the day that I saw a difference along the line of scrimmage and a difference when you saw two guys hit each other repeatedly is the LSU UCF game. You could see that LSU players, by and large, not every player on the roster, obviously, but by and large, the LSU lines were more dominant. When there was contact made, typically between two players, that the LSU players would get the better of the collision over and over and over and over. And I don't see that in this game. I do think Georgia has a more talented and explosive roster, and they've got a deeper roster, but Texas certainly has a ton of talent and a lot of young talent. Their last couple of recruiting classes have been great. But the motivation argument or conversation is also interesting in that it could change during the game, possibly. I don't know if taking Georgia, for example, or any team in their position, whether maybe they come into it, certain players not really engaged, involved, feeling it, but they go in at halftime or at some point in the game, somebody puts a lick on them or something happens that makes them think, you know what? I don't want to hear about this all off season. I want to beat these guys, and I know we're a better team. So why not just lay it on the line for the next hour and a half and get this thing done? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Kirby Smart's a good motivator, or at least I thought he would have had his guys ready for this, but. You know, I mean, if the starters were supposedly, if we were already hearing reports that they weren't connecting or didn't really seem to care in practice, then to me, that just is kind of like they've already chosen how they're going to feel about this, and no one's really going to change their mind. Now, maybe the embarrassment that they just suffered this entire first half might be enough to snap them out of it and be like, okay, you know what, we don't feel like we should be in this game, but dadgummit, we're not going to go out like this. You know,
sure. So that's what I'm thinking. And just so it's not enough for them to snap back into it and win this thing by 12 points, I'm good with that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But I will say this too.
Yep.
I was actually getting on the edge of my seat at the end of that Ohio State game, and
sure,
it looked like Washington might pull off a miracle.
It kind of looked like it. You know, they had the one drive where they had to punt, or Chris Peterson chose to punt with about 4 minutes left.
That was strange.
Down by two scores. And if it was like 4th and 25, where you've got like a 1% chance of pulling it off, but it was 4th and 8. So I thought that was rather strange too.
I think it was 4th and 5.
Was it 4th and 5? I thought it was 4th and 8. Whatever it was reasonable. Yeah. And Ohio State kind of bailed them out by throwing the ball a couple times on the next series. Otherwise, they could have made them utilize all their timeouts. But Ohio State tried to stay somewhat aggressive, but they were kind of in that mid-range. Yeah, they just kind of lost it. They just kind of lost it there, but they held on. Yeah. So, yeah, we've had competitive games all day, at least. All the games have come down to the last. Again, the Ohio State game was kind of different because they dominated the whole game, but then they almost blew it. But the other games have been really good all day.
Yeah. I mean, it looked to me like LSU was clearly a better team than Florida. I think a lot of it was them letting them stay in the game.
Yes.
Mainly due to the first 2 minutes where LSU couldn't do anything right.
Although watching the fourth quarter of that game, and I was all over the place because I was trying to watch 3 games at the same time. And that one, for some reason, even though that captivates people, the whole UCF deal against the SEC, I was the least interested in that game. But I had all 3 on different various devices. And UCF, their receivers dropped about 4 or 5 passes that could have made a world of difference. One in particular, the kid would have taken 75 yards for a touchdown. He had beaten one of the, backup to backup to backup cornerbacks for LSU, a kid that was playing safety and had barely played this year that had to guard one of their top receivers by the fourth quarter. And he had a 4-yard lead on the guy and dropped a ball that was right in his gut. And they did that a few times, where a couple times they had to kick field goals after they dropped passes. So LSU, yeah, was clearly the better team. The total yardage was like 500 to 200. They just, yeah, UCF made enough plays and LSU did enough stupid things or shot themselves in the foot to keep the Knights around.
Yeah. In particular, I thought that touchdown UCF got right for the end of the half was just ridiculous on LSU's part. They completely let that guy by himself in the end zone.
Yeah.
And there was no excuse for that. My jaw actually kind of dropped when I saw that. I mean, LSU could have so easily just taken this to the half with a huge lead, but they didn't. I will say, I know UCF fans are going to complain for the next summer or all off season about them not having their quarterback. LSU was without their entire defensive backs.
Yeah,
all of them.
Sure.
They were all gone. So I'm not even sure which one was more at a more disadvantage. Frankly, I don't care. When both of them are missing huge players like that, because UCF's quarterback is good, so I'll give them that. But LSU's trademark was their defense, and they were missing basically all of them, except ironically their best player. But so I'm not gonna. I have no time for anyone who has excuses for either of those teams. But
yeah, and
it was good that LSU finally, they did not pull an Auburn. They got down really quickly and with a lot of motivation, a lot of momentum taken away from them when they received the opening kickoff, ran it down there, and then had to settle for a field goal. That was probably really disheartening. And then all of a sudden UCF scores 14 points and targets their quarterback, but doesn't get called for it. But yeah, it was an entertaining game. I think Mississippi State needs to be kicked out and join the Sun Belt Conference now. And good job, Kentucky, by the way. I didn't think they had much of a chance.
Mississippi State needs to get kicked out. Why? Just because they lost a game?
I'm just joking around.
You're just upset that the SEC lost a bowl game. Okay.
I'm upset that the SEC has lost 4 bowl games. Yes.
Well, it's the best conference, and it's the best conference. But there are certainly other teams and other talented players out there. I was not surprised by those 2 outcomes, even though I missed on both of them. I certainly was kicking myself with Mississippi State and Iowa because I thought, okay, I do believe Mississippi State's going to win this game, but I just, Iowa typically comes to these bowl games and they play pretty well. And Kentucky, I certainly saw that one. I was not surprised by that, even though they're so challenged on offense. That defense is really, really good. And I think we look too much at offense, most people, and therefore Kentucky's been discounted, disregarded, disrespected the whole season because of the obvious shortcomings on that side of the ball. But they legitimately have a top 10 defense in the nation. They are really good. They might be better than that. They might have a roughly top 5 defense.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and you're right. We do tend to think a lot more offensively these days. Everyone likes to see scoring. And I'm an Alabama fan, so my view isn't skewed on that at all. But it was still surprising to me because I take a team like Kentucky who has a really good defense, has an awful quarterback, but just has a really star NFL type running back.
Yeah.
And when I match that up against a team like Penn State, who has an average defense, an above average offense, and a quarterback who was, pretty great most of his career at Penn State. I mean, it's a name everyone knows. He didn't win the Heisman, nor was he in contention for it, but everyone knew his name for a reason. Trace McSorley. In my opinion, he outplayed even Dwayne Haskins when they played, even though Ohio State won that game. I thought Trace McSorley did a better job. But so that's why I was just not really giving Kentucky more of a chance than they should have gotten, and that's my fault for not taking the defense into account.
Yeah, for some reason, yeah. we can watch the Texas A&Ms of the world and the Missouris of the world win 45-40 games, and we're impressed by that. But all season we kind of joke and make fun of Kentucky winning 13-10 games when basically it's the same result. Okay, you've got a struggling offense and a great defense. You've got an explosive offense and an ugly defense. It kind of comes out the same, but we tend to like the high scoring game. So yeah, I knew that Kentucky was going to be serious in this game. I grudgingly picked Penn State to win, but I grabbed those 5 points without even thinking about it with Kentucky. And yeah, that Benny Snell, he is some kind of player. He is a battering ram. You mentioned Trace McSorley. He actually, surprisingly, as a senior, had the worst season of his career. Much of that had to do with losing guys to the NFL. He lost his best players to the NFL, and the guys that replaced him are very young. But Mike Gesicki, who's an NFL tight end, and Deshaun Hamilton and Chris Godwin and all those players that he lost to the NFL really hurt him. And of course, Saquon Barkley took a lot of the load off his shoulders last year. So statistically, he had his worst season in trying to carry this offense. And so Penn State, yeah, they're a good football team. I've expected them to be a little bit better, and I think most people have. Their recruiting rankings have been extremely high, but they haven't turned the corner. They've been kind of the same team now for about 3 years. They've been, one of those 12 to 15 best teams in the country, but they haven't taken the next step.
Dare I say we throw James Franklin in the same group as Harbaugh, Mark Richt, Les Miles, all those guys? Or is that still a touchy topic?
I think we do if he keeps this up. He made a comment, reasonable. He made a comment earlier this year after the Ohio State game that his program was now, I think he blew it in his terminology in the wording here, but he called his team and his program great. He said, we have a great program. We've got a great team, but our goal, and that's not good enough. Our goal is to be elite, and we played an elite team tonight. We played an elite program. So I get his point, but the terminology of great, I think, was a bit overstated. 9-4 teams are not great. He doesn't have a great team. He hasn't had a great team. They're very good. They're very talented. They're on the cusp, but he needs to start winning some of these big games. I
need to ask for you're saying he said this today?
No, he said this after the Ohio State game.
Oh,
to basically,
I thought you were saying he said this today, and he referred to Kentucky as an elite team.
No.
Okay.
He said this, earlier this season. Just to basically, okay, we're at the doorstep again, and we got disappointed again, and we need to kind of break down the door. But they didn't do it. They even got worse as the season went on in some respects.
All right, well, the second half started now, so I'll let
you
go, and we'll see how this turns out. We may be looking at what I would consider a huge upset here.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty reasonable, well, not, pardon the pun, upset. I don't think it's anything catastrophic. I wouldn't be that shocked. Yes, I think Georgia's better. I'm expecting them to win, but yeah, I think it's reasonable that they're a 12-point favorite. That seems to make sense.
Oh, by the way, one more thing.
Sure.
I'll go. Because I forgot about this, but you and I basically almost called the Alabama and Oklahoma game perfect on our call before the game, because I think you guessed like 20-something to 40, like 5, and I just bumped it up a touchdown.
We split the difference.
And it was split the difference, yeah.
Yeah, I had the 40. I
would have had it exactly if Saban hadn't taken a knee.
Yeah, you would have had it exact. Yeah, I had the 45. You had the 34. Yeah.
Right, and I had 52.
Yeah, and we both had an 18-point spread, which hurt me. All right, sir. Enjoy the game.
All right, man.
We'll talk to you soon. All righty. Good night.
Easy.
Reasonable Gump, Alabama fan, football observer. If somebody else wants to call in, please do. Keep in mind that after this game, I've yet to announce this, but after this game, we've got Steve Helwick on the line. Steve Helwick writes for the Daily Texan. He also does work for the University of Texas campus television station, and he's at the Sugar Bowl, and he will be doing a live report from the field. So we'll do a live chat and a live stream with Steve after the game. Steve Helwick, Daily Texan, and the University of Texas after the Sugar Bowl with a Texas-Georgia report. All right, folks, I think I'll shut it down from here. We can check out the second half, and we are still at 20-7 with the Longhorns in the lead over the Bulldogs, trying to pull off an upset in New Orleans, and Georgia has the football at its own at 25. They've run for a first down. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will review the day in college football. I am looking through my notes. As soon as this concludes and we do a live stream later tonight after the Sugar Bowl, I'll certainly bring you reports on as many games as I can get to, starting most significantly with the Rose Bowl, and then looking at the other games with Mississippi State losing to Iowa, Penn State falling to Kentucky, and then the UCF LSU game as well. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Keep us going. By also, if you're doing any post-Christmas shopping, jump into any of the description sections of any of the videos, grab the link to Amazon. You don't need to buy the product, just use the link, and that helps the channel. I will give this a quick look on the live chat to see if anybody's commented and is looking for any kind of response here. I don't necessarily see anything. If you've got a comment or a question for me, go to any of the videos and leave it in the comments section, and I will get to it sometime in the next few days. Enjoy Texas, Georgia. I will. We'll be back after the game. After the game, we're doing a live stream with Steve Helwick from the Daily Texan and the University of Texas campus TV station right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. See you soon.